Speak. Oh, that's fine.
That works.
Okay, you good.
Okay, gotta get out of my system.
Alright, yeah.
They're just gonna hear me talk.
Hear you talk.
Are you ready? Alright, episode 1. She speaks. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, this is my podcast called She Speaks. This is going to be our first ever episode. So excited for you guys to see what I have in store coming up soon. But we're going to break this down into 3 different segments. So this is season 1. I'm so excited. Season 1 is going to talk about relationships. And for specifically, it's going to talk about exes. It's going to talk about situationships. It's going to talk about the whole shebang. Now, I'm here to talk to you first about relationships. The second one is going to talk about friendships. And the third one is going to talk about family. So, without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start this first topic off, relationships. What are they? What do they do to you? What do they cause? And how do we react from that? So, first off, starting, it's such a different concept to me because when I was younger, I always thought about the hopeless romantic in me was just wanting to improve on seeing differently than others. I always wanted to see the good in people, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Firstly, obviously, I want you guys at home, whatever you're doing, whether it's cooking, whether it's driving, make sure you're driving safe, by the way, whether it's running errands or just listening to a podcast, I want you to do this with me. I want you to simply just raise your hand, okay? Now I want you to raise your hand even higher. And I want to ask yourself, why the hell didn't you give 100% the first time? Let that sink in. We always go through basically our whole lives just putting in half-ass effort. And I want to be the voice today to change that. I want to tell you in everything, now specifically in relationships. Let's talk about it. Specifically in relationships, I want you to kind of think about all of the scenarios that you have been either put in or have caused that you've always put 50% in and haven't given your all. And maybe if you would have given your all, that relationship, situationship, or ex could have worked out. We all go through mistakes in life, and it's the choice that we make that revolves around what later on goes on within your life as well. So with that being said, the choices you make is going to impact the other person at the end of the day. Now, I am reading this book, and I actually went to Canada not too long ago, around August, to visit my aunt in Canada. And I found myself just having such deep conversations with her. And one of the most important conversations was, how do I get myself to open up to someone when I have been hurt in the past? And she didn't say anything. She went upstairs and actually grabbed this book. And this book is called The Secret to Love, Health, and Money. And it's a masterclass written by Rhonda Bryn. Definitely recommend this book. Everything that I'm going to talk about here is coming out of this book mostly. She basically sat me down and said, read the first couple of pages and tell me what you think and what has changed in your mindset. Now, I took some notes because obviously I want to make sure that I'm getting everything covered in this podcast, as it is my first one and I'm still learning. So if you have any notes, please follow my Instagram. She Speaks now has an Instagram, TikTok, and soon to be YouTube. This is going to be out on all platforms, including Spotify, very soon. So with the first thing that I said, with the raising your hand and giving your 100% and everything, it's so important to take into consideration. It's a 2-way street. It's not going to be a 1-way street with a relationship. And specifically with that being said, it's going to be either you both put in the effort and both of your glasses are going to be full, or one's going to be half empty. And something that I read throughout this book was glass half empty, go catch the other half. And that's so just impactful in my life. And I feel like this past entire year, I have gone through so many dates. I've gone through so many situationships. I just went through a huge breakup, and I felt myself almost needing the need to change that person. And it gets to a point where that was also on me. I will put my hands up and I will say, that is not how a relationship should be. You should want the person for who they truly are. And something so important that I actually saw on TikTok, which it's crazy how we learn everything from TikTok nowadays, was that it takes two to tango. It takes two people to get somewhere and two people to complete a relationship, whether that being you change for yourself, or whether that being you get influenced by other things and then you want to change for that person. It's always going to be your choice at the end of the day. It's not going to be an impulsive decision that you make just because your significant other told you so. And that's the hard thing that I had to learn this entire year. Day after day, I went chasing half empty glasses and trying to fill my own. And at the end of the day, that's never going to be the right fit for your life. When you change your mindset, depending on whether or not your glass is empty, you're going to feel different, obviously. And the one prompt that I actually gave you guys on my Instagram, make sure you go follow it. I know, slight plug. But the one prompt that I gave you guys was, if you saw someone and it was being your significant other and your previous ex, what would be the last question you would ask them? And I told you guys that I would pick one response out of all of them, or one question, or just one comment that they made in that Instagram post. And the one that I chose was, if you saw someone feeling the exact same way as you are now, what would you tell them? And they specifically wrote this towards their ex. So if you were to change the context of it, they're asking, if you were to see how I'm feeling currently, what would you ask them? And what would you tell them? And honestly, I would tell them it's okay. It's okay to change, and it's okay to sometimes hear people out. And it's not okay to shut people down and belittle them, because at the end of the day, they want what's best for you. And I will stand by this day after day. If a woman decides to argue with you, if a woman decides to make sure that she's being heard, if she's constantly reminding you of something that is important to her or an issue that is very important to her, and she's not being heard, she will show it. And how she will show it? Through silence. A woman will only go silent when she has lost all hope and all care and all empathy towards that person. That is the only time that she will go silent. And I stand by that to this day. I personally went through a situation last year. It's actually coming up to be a full year now that I've gone through that situation. I was dating someone, and I truly fell in love with this person with every part of my soul. I've never felt anything like this for anyone before. And it got to the point where I was trusting them with absolutely everything. I was making sure, like, I was, feeding them at certain points and just like cooking for them. Cooking is obviously my love language. I know it might be for a lot of you. I was making sure that they were on time with things. And then I was making sure I was treating their family right. I went to all their family gatherings, and I just try to make sure that I was doing the best I could, as not only as a girlfriend, but as a best friend and a person. Because at the end of the day, you want to treat your significant other as a human being as well. And I think that's a lot of people we take into granted, and I think we just need to think about that more often. But besides that, I went through this relationship and things started going south early on, and I decided to just forget about it and just kind of oversee it, which is never a good thing. It's gonna bite you in the ass just a little bit. But here's the thing with that. You learn a lot of lessons as, like, personally, when I went through this relationship, I learned so much. One thing that was huge that I learned was actually just, like, kind of pushing through everything, pushing through all the arguments we had, the little bickering that we had, and just telling myself, no, it's going to be okay. I want to give this a go. And here's the thing, when you are putting your 100% energy, so like I said, remember what I first talked about in this situation, raising your hand and raising it even higher, giving your 100% effort. When I put all of my energy into one basket and all of just my entire emotions were just given to him, he had full control. At the end of the day, that's how it's going to happen. And if they're not reciprocating that 100% effort, it is going to be the same thing. It's just going to be one-sided, and the other person isn't going to understand. And one really big thing that I actually saw, and it was on TikTok, shocker, it was a troop, and it's like this trend going around of people saying their favorite troops that they see. And mine was what is one thing that you wished for in a partner? And what I said was, when he can analyze my emotions by my body language. When you are so deeply in love with someone, you want them to be able to read you in any situation. And the thing with this is, I felt like he did read me in every situation. He knew my emotions, and he knew what I was thinking in that moment, what I was overthinking in that moment, what I was trying to contemplate on. And yet I just feel like even though he saw the emotions, he couldn't decide how to handle them after. And that's where a lot of my troubling began. And I feel like I just need someone that I can truly like rely on as a backbone. And what I mean by that is, I want someone that if I were to have business communications or financial decisions that I have to make or marketing things that I have to decide on, I want to know that I can fully put my trust in them and be willing to like have them support me in whatever decision I made, and also give me the enough advice that they have on how I'm feeling and how my body language is responding to then actually act on it. And that is so big to me. And I feel like a lot of women nowadays, they just forget about that. They forget that they need someone as in like a male figure, essentially. I always believed, and I have the traditional views of having the woman and male like always work together, obviously, but also just kind of looking up to the male and just having them have their job in a sense. It's like if I were to give the man like cooking job, that's totally fine. That's totally different. I'm talking about emotional jobs. Having that man to rely on is so important, and I feel like that's something like our generation just put past, and I want to bring that back. I want to bring back having someone to go to talk to about all these decisions, because at the end of the day, like, you're going to be living together at one point, and you're going to be eventually married if you see like yourself marrying that person. And that's something that a lot of Gen Zs forget, that they want to go for marriage at some point in their lives. And that's something so big to me. I date to marry. I'm that type of girl. I'm only a relationship person. I date to marry. And it gets to a point where I have conversations with some people, and I'm just wondering, like, why? Like, why do you have that perspective? But then when you also see someone else's perspective on their past and what they've gone through, each person is different. And whatever you believe in is exactly what you believe in. And I feel like everyone should just kind of be very understanding of each other's personal views, but that's just how I view everything. I just believe that it should be traditional, not saying that women should cook, not saying that women should always be in the house and not have a job. I'm not saying that. In emotional state, that's what I'm saying. Emotional state, I feel like the woman should always go to the man, and the man should always go to the woman for advice. It should be a two-way street. And kind of continuing on with that, I'm going to look at my notes and see what I'm forgetting. And you know what? It's so funny to me because I'm a yearner, and it's really hard because I am looking for someone that yearns with me and not just beside me. And what I mean by that is, when you have someone yearning beside you for absolutely everyone else and not your own partner, it's really hard to see that. I yearn for everyone in my life, including my future partner. And I feel like throughout my past, I've gone through someone that cared more about their surroundings and their image more than me myself. And it gets to a point where it's just it gets confusing, because at the end of the day, you care about this person so much, you're putting, like I said, your 100% effort into them, and you're not reciprocating that. You cannot leave a relationship having felt that they think the grass is greener on the other side. I believe that whoever you're talking to in that circumstance, in that moment, should be exactly what you're looking for. And I will not date a guy and go into a relationship and go through with that until I have found everything that I'm looking for and seeing in a future husband. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to waste someone's time. And what's so funny to me is, actually, one of my friends said this, to which we were, me and one of this other friend, we were dating. Not in a relationship wise, just going on dates. And they told me, I don't understand why you keep dating people for 3 weeks and then just ending it. And my response was, would you rather me date them and probably lead them on for a lot longer and go through a whole year of a relationship with them and just kind of lead them on and then throw them in the trash a year in advance? I'm not that type of person. I know what I'm looking for, and in that instance, if they're not meeting what I'm looking for, like I said, I'm not willing to be here to change someone. I'm not here to be someone's teacher and teach them how to go about my ways or fit my standards. I'm not here for that. I don't want to change anyone in that aspect. And I think that's super important. That it's an important task and just valuable lesson that I've learned this year. As I say, my frontal lobe is developing. Thank you very much. And I just feel like it's so important to kind of relay this message. And this is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because I think so deeply and I write so deeply. And I said, screw it, why not just make a podcast and have other people that might feel the same way actually agree with something or agree with a lesson that I gave or just advice. Like a lot of my friends look for advice and they always come to me, and sometimes I don't follow my own advice. And I think that's where I go wrong. I tend to give such good advice and such good lessons and so many good, thoughtful, meaningful, wisdom and just such good things that I tell them. And then I never take that into consideration when I'm going on dates, when I'm financially going through everything, or just life in general. I just never, I don't know why I do that, but here I am putting my hands up and saying that I do that. But like I said, we're human. We make mistakes and we go through them one by one. And something I actually posted on my Instagram for She Speaks, I said, you went through every single battle this year, yet you showed up for every one of them. And that's kind of the gist of what it said. And that quote really stuck with me, was because you go through everything with anyone without anyone seeing them sometimes, and people don't talk about it enough. People every day go on with their lives thinking that everything's fine with their friends, with their family members, and they don't actually truly sit down with them and say, hey, like, what's going on? And I think this is what this podcast is for. I'm here to ask you what's going on. Even though you can't respond to me, I want you to just say it out loud wherever you're doing, whether it's cleaning, cooking, driving, running errands, anything. I want you to ask yourself, hey, like, is there anything that I need to think about? And give yourself some grace at that point. This should be a learning lesson for everyone. Something that I actually got taught from this book and my aunt as well, and that I do very religiously now, is just take 5 seconds and breathe. Honestly, those 5 seconds can go so far. Trust me, when I'm driving and I'm overthinking and I'm constantly, my mind is running 24/7, I just breathe. And I think that's so valuable to everyone listening right now. Let's see what else I have. There's different prompts that I want for this podcast, and I have so many ideas and just things running around in my head because I overthink quite a few things in my life. This being one of them. But I have this one idea of being the voice of a lot of Persian women that tend to get shut down, I think. Not just in the workforce and not just in daily situations, but in an all aspect kind of sense. I think they, in everything, have such a nurturing, caring perspective on things that a lot of people just kind of oversee that. And they kind of stereotype it in a way. In a way, Persian women are stereotyped. They're seen as stubborn, they're seen as loud, and they're seen as very convincing and almost just very contradicting, I guess you could say. But I'm here to change that. I am a fellow Persian woman, and I feel like, yeah, we are spicy. What about it? I think that's such a good thing. I think showing your culture is such a captivating yet just informative way of showing your character at the end of the day. And there's this one song that I was just randomly sitting in the car with my mom, and we ended up just skipping through these Persian songs. And there's this one song, and it made me think of this situation and this topic that I'm talking about, like exes and relationships. It's called Del Bedel, and basically throughout the song, it just talks about how my heart and your heart are connected in a way, and it talks about how my heart is in a different city and I will always be in that city. And it's basically talking about how that person is always going to be the love of my life in that city, and that we are always going to be connected. And I think that's so important. And Persian songs have such a weird yet amazing, beautiful way that they captivate love. And it's such a romantic way of saying, like, I'm always going to be there with you. And this has to go along with like long distance couples. If you have any long distance couples out there, this one's for you. But it's always going to be connected in a way. You're always going to have that connection, that invisible string. And I think that invisible string theory is so, so true. You can always be 10,000, 30,000, or however many miles away, and you can always be connected with that person so deeply and so thoughtfully. And it's just, it's so captivating to see a lot of long distance couples work out, because I want them to work out. At the end of the day, like, that's what I always dreamt of, like, having. But at the end of the day, like, it takes two to tango. Like I said, it takes a glass full and a glass full to always work. It's not going to take a glass half empty and a glass full to work, because one is always going to fill the other. And I think that's so important to think about. So as you go along your day, I want you to ask yourself, is my glass half full, or is it fully empty? Or is it fully there? But yeah, that was my first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that first episode. There's soon to be more. I'm thinking about posting about 2 per month, so every other week. So make sure you tune in on my Instagram at She Speaks, TikTok She Speaks. It's gonna be posted on Spotify very soon. But yeah, that was the first lesson. I hope you enjoyed. And as I like to say from a very good man, Jim Carrey, good morning, good evening, and good night. Oh my god, that was a lot.
That was a lot.
I loved it, every second of it. Oh my
Nice.
god, that was the first one.